what you were talking about.
Center for Creative Living on YouTube.
Center for Creative Living on YouTube. Okay. Well, I have this wonderful man, and Reverend Keith Smyth, who he calls Smitty. He has a story of what happened to him when he was younger.
Oh, great. Yeah.
That I want you, when you listen to him, realize that you have similar stories, but maybe not as dramatic. But remember that your life story is incredible. And maybe someday you want to get up here feeling beautiful and tell us your story. Please welcome Reverend Smitty.
Thank you. I'm not Reverend Eileen or Dottie or Lori. I'm going to have to read most of this. It is quite complicated because I took detailed notes after this occurred to me. A little bit about myself before I start. Everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was born in 1935 in Greeley County, Kansas, a little town, Tribune, a very small town. Population was very, very stable. Every time a baby was born, somebody left town.
Wait a minute. Float away.
On 1949, on my 14th birthday, I was out getting some friends together for a party. Well, I was over at these twins, Larry and Jerry Toadvine. Yeah, that was their name. And don't blame me, that's their parents. The horse had gotten out and was in a neighbor's yard in some tall weeds, grass. The stuff was over our head. There was some corn in it and stuff like that. We were hunting a horse. I stepped through that tall weeds right into the back end of that pony. His haunches dropped, and I thought, oh, he's going to kick, and I grabbed for his tail. I missed, and he didn't.
Oh, no.
And that's what happened to me. Well, they called the doctor. I was knocked out. They called the doctor. He was out of town, about 15 miles out, fixing a farmer's hand. Got caught in a power takeoff. Doc was good. He saved the hand. It took him a half an hour to get to me. In the meantime, when that horse kicked me, I went flying through the air. I remember flying through the air and hitting the ground. I never remembered anything after that until 1971, after taking Earhart seminars training, Silva mind control, winding up at Unity Church in Palo Alto on Forest Avenue, where somehow or other I became president of the board of directors. Don't ask me how. And
Richard can identify with that.
I started recovering the memory of what happened. It turns out Doc Hoy, our local doctor, was a master hypnotist. And when I tried to tell him what had happened, he shoved a shot in my arm, told everybody in the room to get out. He had to check me over for internal damages. What Doc did was program me not to be able to recover that memory until it was safe to do so. He'd heard it all before. 1949, Greeley County, Kansas, in the middle of the Bible Belt. 14-year-old kid talking about going on the other side, seeing the being of light, and coming back to talk about it. Yeah, the rooms are padded and the clothes buckle up the back with the arms folded across the front. So here's what happened. When that horse kicked me and I flew through the air, hit the ground, I got up and I'm looking around and I can't figure out. I said, that doesn't hurt. What happened? And there's some guy laying at my feet. I can't figure out who he is. Here comes Larry and Jerry. They come running through the reeds. Apparently I'd yelled when the horse kicked me.
Yeah, I bet.
And they grab up this guy and they go rushing off into their house. Well, I'm trying to talk to them and they're not paying any attention to me. So I reached over to grab Jerry's shoulder. I was one of the few people that could tell Larry and Jerry apart when they were separate. And they were identical twins. Jerry shuddered, turned around, looked right through me, and kept going. I'm going, uh-oh. They go running up the back stairs, into the back porch of the house, into the kitchen. I'm right behind them. and that kitchen door slammed shut right through me. I thought, I got a problem. Boy, do I have a problem. So, I had, standing there in the corner of the room, and they're throwing the body on the couch, and they said, well, he's not breathing. And I'm looking at this guy laying there, who is he? I said, wait a minute, he's wearing my belt buckle. That belt buckle was bent in half. That's what a horseshoe will do to a belt buckle when it hits it. And by the way, the reason I grabbed for that horse's tail, I grew up in farming country. When a horse gets ready to kick, they drop their hindquarters. If you can grab the tail and pull down hard enough, a horse kicks with both feet. Don't ever do that with a mule. They kick with one foot. They can kick a wolf clear into the next county with one kick. That horse darn near put me in the next county with both feet. So I'm standing there thinking, this is not right. I think I got a problem. Mom's going to be very unhappy because she sent me out to get somebody for my birthday. Well, suddenly I'm standing in front of the house. I go into the house and there's Mom preparing the cake. I thought, well, Dad is going to be a little bit upset. I'm standing 2 miles away in the depot at Repercussions, Kansas, where he is the station agent. He's working on doing some train orders and stuff, and he turns around, he says, that's odd, and he turns around and looks right through me and goes back to work. I found out later Dad was an empath. Anyway, all of that happened, and I'm trying to figure out what happened. So I started going through a bunch of memories as a kid. And some of the first memories is about 4 or 5 years old, laying in the dirt with a dog of mine. He's laying down, and I'm laying with my head on him, we're sound asleep. And I don't remember much after that until about the first grade. Just before the first grade, my father taught me to read. I'm going through all of this in my head. Dad had taught me to read, and every book that my mother bought, and we didn't buy many, he took tape and taped out the first and half last inch, the first and last half inch. Tweet. I got my tooth wrapped around my eye tooth and couldn't see what he was saying. Anyway, he drew a black line down the middle of the page, and he said, keep your eyes on that black line. Your vision will expand to take in the whole line. This is before school. By the first grade, I was reading at the 3rd grade level, and I was reading at about 75 to 90 words a minute, 3rd grade level. By the time I was in the 5th grade, I was reading close to 1,200 words a minute. By the time I graduated from high school, I read light fiction at 2,000 words a minute. I don't read. Every one of those words carries an image in it. I see the images and I watch a movie in my mind. In heavy technical material, I read at about 600 words a minute. I watch the test equipment, giving me indications. So that's what happened to me, and these memories. It drove my teachers nuts. I loved it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm over there. I'm trying to figure out what's happening. I'm feeling this. I'm in Repercussions, Kansas, and there's these people wandering around around the depot and around the railroad hotel that's across the road where the train crews spent the night to the end of their run. There's these gray beings wandering around. There's guys sitting there reading newspapers, wandering around, talking to all the train crewmen, and these beings that just walk right through them. They don't seem to notice each other. I knew that there was some kind of an energy being or spirit. Now at 14, I didn't understand any of this. So I wasn't too alarmed or frightened, but about that time I feel this pull, and I'm being pulled somewhere. And as I'm being pulled, I'm standing back in the corner of the room where my body is, and I realized by that time, that's me. So there's this cord running from here down to the body, and it's getting stretched, and it's getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and suddenly I am in a tunnel. In that tunnel is all kinds of energy just everywhere. It's like that. That's exactly what I saw. And there is a sound. I can't describe it. It was so beautiful. And I was getting very frightened. And suddenly I'm out of the tunnel and I am in an area of total black. I cannot see my hand in front of my face. And without any thought, I'm thinking, I've bought the farm. This is it. I'm dead. I can see that cord that was attached to my stomach. It has an end. It has broken. And I'm going, I don't know what that was, but I don't think that's right. And I'm standing there trying to figure out what's happened, and about this time, way off in the distance, I see a little bitty light, real small. And I can't tell if it's moving towards me or I'm moving towards it, but it's slowly getting larger. And as it comes up, I can see a being in that light. It's about 8 feet tall. And there was this feeling of absolute, total, complete acceptance. What we call love here is nothing more than fascination. That was love. It did not matter anything I had ever done or thought. And that all sprang up around us all at once, 360. Everything was totally accepted. Things that I wasn't what you would call a model child, as my mother frequently pointed out. Some of the things I pulled, I thought were going to get me on the grease slide to the hot spot down below. Were treated with a rather vast, gentle amusement. Things that I hadn't even thought about were pointed out to be rather drastic errors of judgment. And at the moment, I'm saying, what? And over here I can see a thought. And about 3 or 4 days later, I can see a repercussion. I can see the connection between the thought and the repercussion. I can see an action over here, and maybe 2 months later, I can see a repercussion. And I say repercussion with meaning. Every thought, every action, and every feeling you have, and that we have here, creates something. Now, whether it's beneficial or not, that's your choice. So, as they got closer, and I say they because this was a being of complete blending of both male and female characteristics. A perfect blending. And they referred to themselves as we, not I. And I said, what? And they said, we won't harm you in any way, do not be afraid. They used a term we don't have here, and I don't know how to say it. I think the closest I can come is childling. And they said, we will not harm you in any way. I said, what's a childling? They said, in a moment, what do you have to show us? And that's when everything sprang up around us. Now, I have to stop here a minute. That being of light, and the face, the description, the planes in the face were, you know, you've seen these drawings where they show the planes at the different angles for artists to study. It was like that, but it was rounded. I couldn't see. Here we have identical, different faces. Nobody is identical. And there I got that this is a model of the perfect blending and the perfect being, and that's what is being presented to me because they couldn't show anything else for me to be able to grasp as a 14-year-old. And when I said, who are you? They said, in a moment. Now, they said, excuse me, some of these things that I had done and thought, they showed me to be beneficial for myself and others. And when I had done things that were, well, not beneficial, they weren't bad. What we do here is never considered as bad. And by the way, BAD is an acronym. Did you know that? BAD is an acronym for Best Available Data. Now think about it. Think about it. How many of you have ever started out to do something bad? You always operated on the best available data you had and it didn't quite work.
Thank you.
So, Now, I asked, who are you? You're not Jesus. And this one I gotta read, because I took notes as I was recovering this, because at that time, I wasn't sure if I was making all this up, I was losing my marbles and gonna be in a loony bin, or if this had actually happened to me. Later on, I found that it had actually happened. And the answer I got was, we are not Jesus. Some may only think of us in that way in order to communicate with us. Jesus was one of us. We are not Jesus. That is an energy level that the physical conscious mind cannot comprehend. When a request is made to that energy level, it must pass through us. If we are unable to deal with it, then the request moves through us to that energy level known as Jesus for completion. We are all that you have ever been, all that you shall ever be in all possibilities. We are that which you have evolved into at all levels of dimensions. We are your parentling of your own far future. We are the eons of centuries you have lived and shall live. All that is, we are. You are the childling we must obey. For you to become us, you have to learn control. Control of thoughts, control of emotions. For you are us, we are you, all of you that is. Even though we are one, you are pretending to be separate, that we may experience as one that which we have to experience as you. They said, childing, we are yourselves of your own far future. We are who you are learning to become. Without us, you cannot be. Without you, we are not. Now, I heard all that. I didn't understand it, and I understood it. That's strange. I thought I could talk. There's no air here. We're not talking in the ordinary sense. So I asked him, what's this all about? What's happening? They said, you are here before your time, an accident. As to what this is all about, you are in a physical body to learn to care about others and to acquire knowledge. That's the sum totality of physical life.
Can you repeat that?
You are here in the physical body to learn to care about others and to acquire knowledge. That's the sum totality of physical life. You are the part of us that is acquiring experience that we as yet do not have. We are acquiring knowledge that you have not yet gained. Those words are images, I suppose you could be called. However, the real knowledge inside those thoughts, we're not learning to care about others. That word care went far deeper than anything we know here. It was so broad and so deep. It was so full, total, and complete. Love, acceptance, with caring far beyond anything we know. The word knowledge went far beyond understanding of the word here on this planet, as it seemed to be a knowing of how the underpinnings of the universe work and how to manipulate those underpinnings. Well, I wish I had them now. I can't explain it any better than that. When I took these notes, I had an inkling that so much of what we do here is so unknown to us, that is the energy we move can literally destroy planets. One person can move enough energy to destroy a planet, and we are totally unaware of that. In the in-between area, excuse me, my tear ducts tip away from my eyeballs, and literally, and they run all the time. In the in-between areas, our physical reality and the spiritual side are so beautiful, so fully accepting, and so wonderful. It brings tears of joy to me. The sounds. Now, that sound in that tunnel, and it faded as I left the tunnel. It was so wonderful. All the bells, carolins, all of the orchestras, bands, songs, and music in the physical world so rich and wonderfully deep as we experience it here, are actually quite thin compared to that sound. I found out later, that is the sound of the movement of the universe. I said I saw that many of my thoughts became physical things. How is this possible? They said thoughts are things. When you image with emotion something that you desire, that is what we must give you in order for you to learn to become who we are. When you learn to generate a stable image of your desire, coupled with a firm emotion, we are bound to bring this into being. But remember, there are issues involved with having this thing. I said, what? They said, such as, do you have the means to support keeping this thing now that you have it? Do you actually truly want it now that you have it? For example, you cannot imagine or image intangible things. Can you image acceptance, or can you only feel it? Can you image love, or can you only experience it? And I've heard one definition of love that makes sense. That's the only one I've ever heard. I've heard that it's described that it is that funny feeling you're going to get, that you're going to get a funny feeling just before you get the funny feeling.
I'm borrowing that.
I stole it, go ahead. Do you wish to stay, or do you wish to return to your physical place? Now, that place was one of complete, total, and utter acceptance, and I knew that I could, if I wanted to stay, I could. And it would turn into something even more wonderful. I'm in between. I know that. There's the physical here, and over there is what I can't see yet. But it is fantastic. And the thought says, but I'm only 14. Bang! I'm standing in the corner of the room watching the doctor prepare a hypodermic. The needle on that sucker was that long.
Whoa!
He put something in there and he stabbed it into that body, right about there.
Yeah.
It went whoom! I get sucked right back into that body so fast it was right out the other end. I got slowly pulled back into that body, and I'm laying there and my heart goes kabam! And I hurt all over more than anywhere else. Let me tell you. I was bruised from there to there for about a month.
You got hit by a horse, come on.
Yeah. Anyway. I knew that there were many levels of reality over there. I knew that if I stayed, I would be born again. I'd have to come back through and go through the childhood I'd had up to 14, and let me tell you, I was not happy with that. I was the smallest kid in town at my age, and I was pretty heavily bullied until I learned to fight back. So, when I tried to tell Doc what had happened, he shoved the shot into my arm and told everybody they had to leave. He had to check me over. Later on, I found out that he was in there talking to me for about a half an hour. Well, they thought he was talking to me. Turns out Doc programmed me for not to be able to remember that until it was safe to do so. And in '71, I started recovering the memories. But in the meantime, I grew up, enlisted in the Air Force, traveled for 12 years around planet Earth. But I had this insatiable curiosity. Even before I got in the Air Force, I tried to talk to different ministers about religion. And I couldn't figure out why I was so immersed in this hunger. Well, it turned out it wasn't religion. That's the trappings. What I was hungry for was the truth of why religions exist. And I noticed something even in that small town. It didn't matter whether you were Presbyterian, Methodist, Baptist, or Catholic. There were one or two people in town that could get their prayers answered. So it had to be a common thread. It wasn't the trappings. Not Protestant, wasn't Baptist, wasn't anything. What was the common thread? And I spent the rest of my adult life hunting for that. In 1971, I took Earhart Seminars training, and I wound up 1 week later in Silva Mind Control. And 2 months later, I am at Unity Church in Palo Alto, working with the minister. And as I start teaching Max Freedom Long's Secret Science at Work, all of this starts opening up. And I mean, it just peeled open like you know, one of these onion blooms that they deep fry. I had to take notes. So what happened is I run into this incredible thing in the Air Force. All over the world, there were these people that could get their prayers answered. It did not matter what their religion was. Some of them didn't even have a religion. Son of a gun. They didn't go to church, they didn't, but things happened as they said they would. So I started going to church. I could not believe it when all of this started coming through, and then I started remembering all of these things, these coincidences. Yeah, can any of you manage your coincidences yet? I'm learning. There were strange things that would happen to me, like in 1972, the group of us went up to Mount Umunhum. Now, Mount Umunhum is called the Magical Mountain. There's a rumor or legend that, well, the Indians called it the Sacred Mountain because it was full of energy. There was supposedly a coven of witches up there that got killed driving up one night, so they haunt the place. I don't know about that. But we were taking a walk, me and the Motley Crew. This was a gang of the kids that my son and I were with. They were Motley, they were Crew and I was Motley. Anyway, this isn't about a haunting of a holy place, it's about meeting my totem. A totem. I am a Leo. I've always had an affinity for lions, both African and American. I was on that mountain summit just down from the abandoned radar station where I met him. We're walking along the trail, these kids are running and hollering. My son was 13, and they're playing around. They're in their 20s and late teens. I told them, be careful, this place is full of poison ivy and poison oak. They're running on down ahead of me, and I'm walking down this trail, and all of a sudden this big, magnificent male puma steps out. For you flatlanders, a puma is a mountain lion. I'm standing there looking at him, and he sits down, and he's looking at me. And I thought, uh-oh, we got trouble. Now, the last time I'd seen a pair of those eyes was when I was 16 over the sights of my 30-06 Savage in the mountains of Colorado, where we were deer hunting. He's about 25 yards away from me, just sat there looking at me. Now, his belly was pretty distended, so I knew he wasn't hungry. But he just sat there and looked. He wasn't hunting me, and I wasn't hunting him, so I didn't pull the trigger. I just moved the sights off, stepped back. But as I stepped back, I swear that mountain lion winked at me. He may have just blinked, but I swear, one eye closed. Anyway, back on Mount Umunhum, that mountain lion sat about 10 feet away from me. About from here to you. He was big. He licked his lips, and the hair on the back of my head tried to crawl up into my eyebrows. And then he said, and I swear, the words were audible, I never saw the mouth move, but he said, you became when you did not pull that trigger in Colorado. Wow. Still gets me. I was so astonished that all I could say was, became what? I mean, this is too weird, right? I'm standing on a mountain trail having a conversation with a mountain lion. He said, one of us who is slowly moving forward in understanding. I couldn't figure out what he meant. He said, you became one of us when horse selected you that time. My only comment was, what? Horse? What are you talking about? He says, I see. Your memory has shifted. You will understand later. I'll be around whenever you need me. About that time, my son came back along the trail, spotted the mountain lion, saw me talking to it, and he comes walking up slow, and he said, Dad, are you talking to that lion? I said, yeah, we're having a chat. My son said, I heard voices, so I came back to see what was going on. All this time, the lion simply sat looking back and forth between us. He slowly stood up, did that cat stretch, and clearly said, "It has been nice talking with you. Your son is also one. Goodbye for now," and he wandered past me down the trail. Now, as he walked past me, that tail of his brushed along my leg and around behind me, you know, like a cat will do. He was petting me. My son was standing there with his mouth open, and he suddenly snapped it shut and said, "Goodbye, lion." The lion stopped, turned around, and bowed to both of us. He said, "Chosen," and slid off the trail into the bush. My son said, "I heard him. He spoke. I mean, he actually spoke." I said, "Yeah, and we better keep it quiet from the Motleys, they'll never believe us." In the intervening years, I've never told anyone about this, never saw the lad again, or a lad again outside of the zoo, but I've never forgotten. Neither is my son. It wasn't until 2 years later I realized what the lad meant by the horse he was talking about, the one that killed me. When it all boils down to is what you think with emotion is what you get. Even Job said it in the Bible. That which I feared has come to pass. Most people never ever hear those last two words. The three one actually. Come to pass. All the situations pass if we learn how we created them and we look for a way out. There's much more I could go into, all the studies, all the midnight contemplations, but that's personal. You folks have your own path. Remember, all you have to remember is think and emotion. What you think with emotion is what you will get. It does not matter what the thought is or what the emotion is. If the thought is beneficial and the emotion is beneficial, the result will be beneficial. But there's a problem. If the thought is non-beneficial, but the emotion is beneficial, the result will be skewed. It'll take off at an angle. But you'll get it. Ooh. If the thought is non-beneficial and the emotion is non-beneficial, oh boy, where do you get it? You'll get it and it won't be pretty. So watch your stinking thinking.
Thank you.
One of the things I learned that I'm still working with, the intent of your communication is the result you get. Think about that. The intent of your communication is the result you get. My life has totally changed from that incident of 1949, if you can call dying an incident. From then on, I was even more of an outsider than I'd ever been before. From 1949 on, I was an outsider in class, in school, in the town. I didn't fit anywhere, and I could never figure out why. I became addicted to science fiction as well as all the fascinating concepts about other worlds and other beings. I read all the science fiction magazines I could find, and my mother was a science fiction addict, and she infected me, thank God. Literally became more aware of, shall we say, otherworldly possibilities. Now, I was taught how prayer programming works, energy, thought usage, and everything else through dowsing at this chapter, and I'm losing it. I teach Introduction to Beginning Dowsing at the San Jose chapter of the American Society of Dowsers, wound up as vice president. And as you know, my wife of 34 years died last year. And in several physical communications, 14 she left hidden around the house, as well as some non-physical we had. She told me she wanted me to be happy. She thought I needed a woman in life. She named the woman that she chose as my replacement.
Ah, it's her replacement.
And that I should choose her as my partner, and I should be her partner. So I would like to introduce you to Magic Powers. And last year I was awarded Educator of the Year at the Society of Dowsers, and that's the award.
Yay!
Do you have any questions? Yes,
Will
Regina.
you teach Huna?
I did, I taught Huna. and
No, will you?
I'm looking into that very,
Cool.
very heavily.
Good.
The Secret Science at Work by Max Friedman Long. and several others, including, psychometry. There's several things that I could teach. Yes, Lynn?
When
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
you touched Jerry on the shoulder, did your hand go through him or was it solid?
My hand went right through him and he shuddered. And
Okay, I was curious.
Looked around and looked right through me. Yes, Lynn?
Well, just that when you began to tell the story to us at the Vespers and the writing group, to see where you've come to and how complete this story is now, and how it's so life-touching, just really inspired by it.
Earlier, I wasn't sure I could put out everything that I had written down in my notes, because this is pretty heavy stuff.
Very personal too.
And it's very personal, but that's not what bothered me. What bothered me is the depth of trying to present this, because the information I was getting, I'm still getting stuff that comes in. I have no idea where it comes from. I say it comes in over the left ear. Somebody will ask me a question and I'll blurt out something, and I don't know, and there it is, and they find it valuable. I haven't got a clue, because it doesn't pertain to me. I'm just the messenger. Yes, ma'am.
I'm done.
Okay, real quick. Well, I also had a near-death thing where I drowned.
Yes.
But I didn't stay drowned, but anyway, I had the lights, I had the voice, I go, oh, this is what it's like to drown, and that was not so bad, it was like music and lights. And then my sister, I guess, came out and dragged me out of the water, and I woke up on the beach with all the water coming out of me.
Right.
But yes. So.
Yes, Dottie.
What time is it?
It is 26 after 11. And we're going to call it quits.
Right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.